The Nationals right now have the hottest prospect in all of baseball that you may not even heard of. Who is it? I'll tell you after this.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And yes, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals. And later on in today's show, we will preview Game 2 of this Nats-Mets series as the Nationals, 8-1 loss yesterday against the Mets. But I want to talk about this. David Peterson has now cracked my all-time list of Nationals killers. Who else is on that list? Nationals fans, you're going to want to maybe listen to it, but also don't drive while listening to this because this is a tough one. I'll tell you that later on in the show today. But we start off discussing the best prospect that Major League Baseball fans may not have heard of. Nationals fans, you definitely know him, especially if you're everydayers. The name is Jarlin Susana. But today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So we get started discussing Jarlin Susana and the incredible run that he has been on for the entirety of 2025. And guys, Jarlin Susana is legit. And this is finally starting to come into what we all thought he could be. This dominant pitcher who touches 103, 104 miles per hour with his fastball at 6'7", generating a ton of swings and misses. His slider is top notch. His changeup is starting to take form. And his fastball, it's fast. Jarlin Susana right now is one of the hottest prospects in all of baseball right now. At the AA level this season, in just about 9 starts, he has 40 2/3 innings pitched, and in that time frame has 66 strikeouts and has a 1.4 whip in those 9 starts. And this was after yesterday's dominant performance with the Harrisburg Senators, in which he struck out he struck out 6 batters in a row over the first 2 innings and a career high 13 strikeouts in just 5 innings. And also, let me just add this. He touched 104 miles per hour multiple times. Now, let's talk about this real quick. If this was Jacob Misiorowski or Paul Skeens, this would be on SportsCenter. This would be on MLB Network. Is this going to be, though? Because a lot of people talk about many different prospects, and there are a lot of different guys out there, like Just Baseball Media, who they cover prospects and they gas up Jarlin Susana. Jarlin Susana, for whatever reason, is not getting the hype of those two guys. Now, Paul Skeens was the obvious, clear, better prospect than Jarlin Susana, so you're not going to get the hype of a Paul Skeens. But Jacob Misiorowski, while he was a very good prospect, Jarlin Susana is on that same train tracks at this point in time. Yet he does not get the national hype. Why is that? Well, I do believe that here with the Nationals, I think that might be why a little bit. And then if you look at the Milwaukee Brewers system and what Misiorowski is doing with them, they have the loaded farm system. That's what they do. They draft and they develop talent. So I think that he was kind of under more of a microscope there for them. But Susana deserves that at this point in time. Again, generating 20 whiffs in yesterday's start over 13, striking out 13 batters in 5 different innings, and touching 104 miles per hour. Where's the national respect regarding Jarlin Susana? Well, if the national beat reporters aren't going to not talk about the Washington National beat reporters, by the way, but if Major League Baseball reporters out there won't talk about him, I will. This guy is a legit prospect, and we are getting into that blue chip territory. We've always talked about the blue chip prospects, how the Nationals have lacked them over the years. Now you have guys like Eli Willits, the number 1 overall pick. He should be a sure thing. I still think Travis Sakura, who actually gets Tommy John surgery today, he is a sure thing for this Nationals team. But let's start talking about Jarlin Susana. He is knocking on the door of being that blue chip, solidified, very good prospect that you can count on over the next year or two, getting the call up to the major leagues. And honestly, this might be a little bit of a hot take. If you dropped him in this rotation today, he might have the best stuff. Better than Mackenzie Gore. Better than Cade Cavalli. That's how good this guy's stuff is. And it's not just for the fact that he throws a 104-mile-per-hour fastball. He now has a 70-grade slider that is real and generates a ton of swings and misses. His changeup, which is his third pitch at this point, has finally developed and is looking like a legit, really good changeup for the minor leagues. At just 21 years old, the sky is the limit for Susana. In being that 6'6", 6'7" frame, that is also another kind of addition to what he brings to the table. Having that physical dominant presence, he's a pretty scary looking guy. I mean, again, imagine James Wood out there throwing 104 miles per hour to you. It's not that appealing. Many guys do not want to go up against that. For good reasons, by the way. The hype surrounding Susana, for whatever reason, is not there at the national level. And I'm getting kind of tired of it because what this guy does each and every single outing now at this point is unreal. And looking over the course of his last couple of starts here with Harrisburg, things just seem to be clicking for him. Again, in his start previously, before this, he went 5 innings pitched with 1 hit allowed and struck out 9 batters. The start before that, 4 2/3 striking out in 6. The start before that, 4 innings striking out 6. The start before that, 3 innings and striking out 8 batters. He's not even going deep into games, yet he's getting these massive strikeout numbers. You know what that tells me? And really just what it tells anybody watching baseball is that this guy has swing and miss stuff. When you have swing and miss stuff, that checks off a big box for what it is to become an ace moving forward. The big discussion around Susana for years has been, yeah, well, this guy's really talented and he's got this high velocity fastball, but is he going to be a starter? Will the Nationals be able to stretch him out and keep his command in check? Or is he going to kind of crash out a little bit and become one of the better closers in all of baseball? Because he's got that 3-pitch mix now where you're like, yeah, he could probably become a monster of a closer, throwing 102 consistently with a wipeout slider and a really good changeup that continues to develop. The talk around Susana right now should be how good of a starter this guy is going to be. And he is going to be a good one, by the way. You will see him up with the Nationals at some point next season. Hopefully it's earlier on in the spring. But if I had to bet, you're probably looking at that July call-up, similar to what Cruz and James Wood got over the past few seasons here. But I expect them to be all in on Jarlin Susana. And why shouldn't they? This guy is a very, very good prospect for the Nationals at this point. He is knocking on that blue chip territory. In fact, I'm about 2 starts away from saying this guy is going to be a stud. He is for real. And when you talk about international prospects, a lot of the times in their younger ages, we're talking about teenagers doing this. He is now 21 years old. He's not a teenager anymore. He's a full-grown adult, 6'6", 250 pounds, whatever it is. And this guy is going to be a legit pitching prospect for the Nationals moving forward. I'm surprised that he has not gotten the national attention that he deserves. Because we've talked about Jacob Mizorowski. We've talked about Paul Skeens before. Let's start talking about Jarlin Susana, though. Because the numbers that he puts up, again, striking out 13 batters over 5 innings, touching 104 miles per hour, why isn't his name trending on Twitter? Make it make sense. Hint, you probably can't. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And yes, we are the Locked On Nationals podcast, where it is your team every day. Sometimes covering this Nationals team, you might not want to talk about them every day. Last night's game was one of them because we just welcomed in a new club member to the Who Kills the Washington Nationals Club. That name is David Peterson. We'll talk about that after this. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family, and maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize that you want to be in the stands? And that's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. And with the money that you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it all possible because Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple, and prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And Gametime is, of course, the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. And like tonight with the Mets in town, you've got a pretty good pitching matchup on the docket. Kodai Senga against Brad Lord. I'm going to walk up to Nationals Park, but open up my Gametime app. I'll be able to see my view from my phone right there to make sure there's no obstruction anyway. And hopefully there's no Mets fans either. But you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with our friends at Gametime. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And we get into it because we have welcomed in a new member of the All Nationals Killers team. Because the Nationals, we've got some friendly names here that we have known to kill us over the years. We'll get into those names later on in the show today. But I welcome in David Peterson. Make yourself at home. You kill the Washington Nationals at this point. His last start against the Nationals, he had a complete game shutout, and it was not pretty for the Washington Nationals, unfortunately for them. And in yesterday's game, he nearly almost did the same thing. And quite frankly, there was a part of me that was just checked out. I mean, yesterday's game was one of the most biggest snooze fests of a game for a long time. We can have a discussion about Jake Irvin and the long-term future for him. We're certainly going to do that soon. But my big takeaway yesterday was David Peterson, someone who does not have strikeout stuff, someone who does not have the swing and miss stuff, somehow, some way continues to kill the Washington Nationals. And I have welcomed him to the club of the all-time Washington Nationals killers, and he deserves it. Looking at some of his starts this season against the Nationals, I mean, he has just absolutely crushed us. Back on June 11th, which was really the thick of the Nationals in their really bad streak, he went 9 innings, complete game shutout, walking 0 batters and only striking out 6. And it's like, okay, we knew that David Peterson was really good against us, but maybe, just maybe, he can finally kind of turn that corner and maybe he's just not this monster that he has been against us. Well, then he goes 8 innings yesterday and nearly does a complete game as well. David Peterson, man, this is not like Justin Verlander or Max Scherzer. He's a really good pitcher, but he's not like your prototypical ace nowadays where he's throwing 100 from the left side. This is your classic old school kind of guy who's going to beat you by making you swing. And he's not going to allow you to get hard contact. His first All-Star season was this year, and he deserves it, by the way. Because looking at his numbers now with the New York Mets, and again, he made his debut back in 2020, and going up against this Nationals team, check out these overall numbers because it has been really, really impressive so far what he has done as I pull up these numbers here. But looking at it right now, he has got I believe, a 2.64 ERA in 13 appearances, 64 and 2/3 innings pitched, 42 strikeouts in that time, and in that time also only walking 19 batters. David Peterson, you have now been welcomed into the club of a lot of elite baseball players that just kill the Washington Nationals. And man, does it suck. Because David Peterson, unfortunately, is probably going to be here for the long haul with the New York Mets because this guy is a very good slept on pitcher. Honestly, reminds me a lot of Brad Board in the way that he has really impressed us this season. And again, he's kind of like in that category of being one of these dominant guys for the New York Mets. And no one really talks about him, but he is a really good pitcher with really good stuff. So, David Peterson, welcome into the club of which you guys kill the Washington Nationals. And in that club, let's talk about these names real quick. Obviously, we have David Peterson of the New York Mets. This is the ongoing guy who just crushes us day after day after day when he pitches against us. But in this club, the obvious answer for me, number one, was Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman, over the course of many, many at-bats against the Nationals, back with his Braves days, he has batted .317 with a 400 OBP, a .514 slug, and a .914 OPS against the Washington Nationals. And in that time, 27 home runs and 124 RBIs. I still, till this day, have nightmares about Freddie Freeman. David Peterson has entered that club now. I will have nightmares about David Peterson next to my nightmares about Freddie Freeman. Back when the Nationals, were contenders, which was a fun time and a long time ago at this point, Freddie Freeman used to crush us. I mean, it was always the Braves or the Nats in the 2010s, and that's just kind of how it was outside of the Mets 2015 run. The Nats and the Braves, though, they were neck and neck. It was Bryce Harper and it was Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman crushed us in the years that, hey, we can maybe knock off the Braves. He just drilled a double in that left center field corner for the Washington Nationals at Nationals Park. And I feel like we have seen him do that so many times over the years. Freddie Freeman, when I think of all-time Nats killers, he is the first name that pops up. And in my opinion, I think the rest of it is gone because Freddie Freeman is the national killer. So Freddie Freeman was my number one guy that I had to mention on this list. My number two, this one sucks to mention. A Nationals killer, Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper, since leaving the Washington Nationals, has crushed us. In his first game back in 2019, luckily the Nationals did win the World Series that year, but that night where Bryce Harper returned, it was a cold, chilly night in April, and Trey Turner broke his finger that night in a bunt attempt, and Bryce Harper started the run of which we would finally announce him to be in the Nationals Killer Hall of Fame, and that's where he stands today. He has batted .301 against us with a .423 OBP, a .519 slug, and a .942 OPS. He has 16 home runs and 47 RBIs in just 322 at-bats. That's not even a full season worth of at-bats. Not even close. In fact, I think it's maybe half of that. Bryce Harper kills the Nationals. I mean, just crushes us time and time again. And knowing Bryce Harper, the edge that he has on his shoulder and just the chip that he has on his shoulder from what the Nationals supposedly, quote unquote, did to him by not re-signing him and not giving him a fair offer from what it sounds like, you just knew as soon as he went to the Phillies, we're like, oh boy, this guy is going to crush us into the 2030s. And that's what he is on pace to do. Bryce Harper, he likes to hit at Nationals Park. He likes to hit against the Nationals at the bank as well. He is a Nationals killer. And in fact, he's probably going to take over Freddie Freeman's spot when it's all said and done because he has put up better numbers. He's getting on base more and he's hitting for power more as well. Once his numbers kind of start to add up a little bit more and as he gets more opportunities against us, he will overtake Freddie Freeman for that number one spot. I can promise you that. One guy that we, unfortunately lost too early back in the 2010s who crushed the Washington Nationals time after time again. One of the most talented pitchers I have ever seen. Miami Marlins star, Jose Fernandez. And again, the late great pitcher in 10 starts against the Nationals, a 0.99 ERA, 63 and 2/3 innings pitched, 84 strikeouts, and just 20 walks. Jose Fernandez was a special, special talent. And he crushed the Washington Nationals time and time again. I mean, he was in his mid-20s, only started 10 times against the Nationals, yet still had a sub-1 ERA against us. Struck out everybody. I mean, the Marlins in those years were not very competitive. But when you went up against Jose Fernandez, you knew that you were in a tough spot. That's kind of what it was like. And again, those Nationals teams were really good and really talented, but they had nothing against Jose Fernandez, and for good reason. He was one of the most talented pitchers I had seen up to that point. And unfortunately for everybody watching out there, his season or his life was cut short as a tragic incident took that away from us. But one of the better pitchers that I have ever seen in my life crushed the Washington Nationals year after year. So David Peterson, welcome to the club of some all-time greats. Freddie Freeman, Bryce Harper, and Jose Fernandez. And last but not least, David Peterson. You are now an official Nationals killer, and it sucks because you're under contract and you're going to be here for the long haul. So let's get into the Nats and the Mets game tonight. We have got a Brad Lord start on the hill against Kodai Senga, who, by the way, also does not mind going up against the Washington Nationals. We'll talk about that after this. And yes, we get back into it with the Washington Nationals taking on the New York Mets tonight. You have lost game 1, 8-1 against the Mets, but you don't have wiggle room tonight. I mean, again, we're not talking about wins and losses here for the Nationals. Who are we kidding? The Nationals will likely lose this game tonight. But with that in mind, again, since the All-Star break, or actually even deeper into that, I believe since mid-June, the Nationals have the worst record in all of baseball. The second worst record, though, is the New York Mets. They have been an awful, awful team for a couple of months now. I mean, this has been a real thing for them. Their pitching has been decent at times. Their bullpen does like to really tend to blow a lot of games. But their offense has been the issue. Their offense has been really bad. So, yeah, getting 8 runs against the Nationals yesterday with Jake Irvin struggling the way that he is, honestly, not all that impressive. But now you're going up against Brad Lord tonight, who is not going to allow you to get hard contact, who is not going to allow you to take off at bats. Like, this guy makes you think. And if you talk to other players around baseball, they have raved about Brad Lord's stuff. Like, this is a for real, really good pitcher for the Nationals right now. And with Kodai Senga, unfortunately for the Nationals, he is also a really good pitcher and does like to kill the Washington Nationals. So tonight's matchup is going to be a very, very interesting one. This has been one of those games that's been circled on the calendar for me for the past few games because I want to see what Brad Lord does. Like, this guy is a building block for the future. And I do believe that where things are standing today, that he will be a big fixture in this rotation in 2026 and hopefully beyond. Going up against the Mets, it's never easy. It does not matter if Juan Soto is slumping or if Pete Alonso is slumping or if Name That Met is slumping. This is a good offense and a good team and a team that will be there this, at least we think, in October in just a few months from now. But Brad Lord is going to have a lot to look up to tonight. You're going up against Juan Soto, and as we saw yesterday, Juan Soto also likes to hit at Nationals Park, unfortunately for us. So we'll see if Brad Lord can get the job done. But my eyes are going to be, of course, on Brad Lord, but also what this Nationals offense can do. You scored 1 run yesterday, but even then, wasn't a real run. Dylan Cruz had that triple, which is nice to watch. Other than that, the Nats offense was dead silent yesterday. Hopefully the Nationals can bounce back today, and hopefully Brad Lord gets the Nats back on track as he has done quite a few times for this team. So thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Enjoy tonight's game. Have a good one. Go Nats.